Yes.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Carla Resnick, and Mary and I put this presentation together, but I'm going to do most of the talking.
You put most of the presentation together.
And I'm the program coordinator for the Altacal Audubon's Certified Neighborhood Habitat program, which was started by Melinda Tevis. And Mary, who you all hopefully know, is our executive director for Altacal Audubon. And my next slide is habitat. A habitat is a place where an organism makes its home. And we're going to look at ways to support birds making their homes in our gardens. So how we think about habitat will inform the ways in which we approach the important work of creating places for our wildlife. We'll look at examples from nature and our less managed lands for inspiration. We'll discuss site considerations, aesthetic desire, budget, and more. And we'll look at some of our favorite California native plants and non-native plant choices for our area. And we'll have some good online resources that can help with plant selection and with planning for a home scale habitat restoration in the northern Sacramento Valley. And here's a picture of some beautiful Tithonia, which attracts hummingbirds, bees, and butterflies. This is outside my yard, outside my window. A delightful plant, not native, I think. So next we're going to think about habitat and the vegetation layers. So we want to have many layers of plants to support a wide range of wildlife. From tall trees, the overstory canopy, down to the ground level, each layer serves a different type of bird. When the birds are flying by, they'll frequently fly into the trees and then take a look around at the layers below and say, oh, is this a good place to come and hang out? Maybe they'll come down and visit your shrubs if they have fruit-bearing shrubs, or drop down to the ground, visit a feeder, perhaps hang out on your brush pile, sort through some leaf litter, maybe take a bath in your bird bath. So we want to invite them in, but they typically come and hit the trees first and then take a look around and come on down to where they want to be. Skulking warblers and the like. And thinking about habitat, we want to emulate nature and not be too tidy. The birds like a little bit of a mess, really. And how the garden is tended is as important as the plants we choose. We can fill our yard with native plants, but if we blow away all the dead leaves, it's not going to be very inviting for a lot of birds. We like to have the dense shrubbery, vegetation layers, as we see here in this picture. There's downed limbs that are going to rot away and provide habitat for creatures, bugs, insects, grubs that the birds might come around and find. It'll trap leaves. There's a mix of evergreen and deciduous plants here. And nearby there are plants with berries or flowers or fruit. And there's going to be plenty of leaf litter captured in this brush pile. I imagine here on one of these dead branches, a black phoebe perched and then waiting to fly out across that grassy area and snap a bug out and come back to the perch. So this is a great spot for that kind of thing. Very good habitat.
Yeah, definitely looks like good habitat. Lots of, and conifers and hardwoods.
So here we're thinking about habitat. This is Bidwell Park in early summer, starting to dry out a bit. You can see all the yellow star thistle, which we don't want you to plant, but it is there, and the finches will eat the seeds. This dense canopy will support nesting sites for birds, shelter for birds. These areas also collect leaf litter underneath them, where insects will grow, and there'll be like a flush of insects that will come up, and the birds will eat those too. So it's good to choose something different than the yellow star thistle, maybe a nice salvia that will provide seeds for the lesser goldfinches. And thinking about habitat, here we are in the suburbs. It's the little sidewalk right beside a lemon tree, and there's all this leaf litter that's accumulated. And it's scattered around. And who do you think did that? Well, it was the towhees. Towhees and other sparrows will forage in the leaf litter looking for seeds and insects. This shrub is the lemon tree will give a place for a quick escape from predators. And then the leaf litter that acts as a mulch for the plants. It slows evaporation, will decompose and add organic matter to the soil. And of course, the towhees will dig through it. So not too tidy. You can sweep that up, but don't blow it away.
If you have a landscaper, you can ask them to not put it in the bag, just like let it mulch on the lawn. I mean, it's best just to leave the leaves, but you can ask them to just at least mulch it so there's still something on the lawn.
Mm-hmm. Or have a section where you just have a leaf pile and they dump the leaves there. If you can stand the untidiness, that'll be really beneficial. So thinking about habitat here, we're looking at the hummingbird nest, which is kind of this amazing thing. I watched this hummingbird build her nest on my string lights one winter, and she just went out and collected little bits of fluff that she would have in her beak and come back and affix it to the string lights and do a little wiggle and go back and get more and more until this amazing cup was built. It was built out of catkins and moss and fluff and put together with spider silk and camouflaged with lichen. Did all of that stuff come from my yard? I'm not sure. Lichen, for example, is very sensitive to air pollution. It needs an undisturbed surface, time, and clean air to grow. Look at all those pieces. We have to think about where that hummingbird is going to get all of those materials to put her nest together. If we blow away all the catkins and put them in the yard waste container, where will she get those? So it's not just about putting in a beautiful nectar plant for the hummingbird. And we can apply this lesson to other birds and habitat. Here we are thinking about leaving a dead tree in your garden. This is not very tidy. It's not necessarily very pretty. There was a peach tree that had outlived its fruiting life. And this is my yard. I just left it, cut the branches away and just left this snag. And it's been home to fungi and ants and bugs over the years. And in September last month, a male downy woodpecker came and excavated a hole for a winter roost. And you can see that picture on the right is the entrance to the holder, his feathers there. I took that picture yesterday. So he's been here. So if it is safe to do so in your yard, leave a dead tree. Or if you're having a huge tree that has to come down, leave a section of it, a substantial section that is not going to, hurt anything if it does fall over.
So that little downy, he built that last year and now he's going to use it again this year? He
built it in September. He came and excavated that hole in September.
Okay.
So when I saw it, I looked it up, and they will make a cavity for a winter roost. So it's not a nesting site. It's a place where they will go every night instead of having to find a new shelter every night. I was very excited about it. So site considerations, these are things that you want to think about for your garden, for your location. What kind of sun does it get? Full sun, part shade, full shade. What kind of soil do you have? The water situation, which we all have to think about. We want to group our plants with similar water needs together. So if you have your native plants that can only take one bout of irrigation one time per month, you want to put all those together or on the same irrigation line if you're doing it that way. There are plants that will just die if you give them too much water. And then of course there are plants that need more water than once a month. So be aware of that and be sensitive to that. And the local plant nursery should know a lot about, be able to answer questions very specifically about plants that can work in your sun, this kind of soil, this kind of water. And back to aesthetic desire, I am very strongly interested in having it untidy as you can stand it. If you want to have Sunset Magazine garden, that's great, but have a section where you don't have Sunset Magazine. Have a leaf pile, have a brush pile, let it get a little messy. Don't deadhead. And then you'll be supporting these wildlife that need it. And many native plants are as beautiful as cultivated plants, and they're far more beneficial to the native birds and pollinators since they evolved together. And keeping the untidy areas, leaf piles, brush piles, dead branches, and then let your flowers go to seed and don't deadhead them. So here on the right, this picture is basil, which this basil was covered with lesser goldfinches when they started to go to seed. And then of course, keep a dead or dying tree if it's safe to do so. As we saw, you might get a downy woodpecker. And of course, budget considerations. Spare no expense, hire a professional designer and landscaper, probably the most costly option. Many of us don't have that ability. So you don't have to buy your plants all at one time. If you do have a plan, and we'll give you some resources about how to do that, you can buy some plants each year and build your habitat over time. If you are taking out a big lawn or even a small one, you can just start with one corner and then gradually, add more and more. Let more lawn out and add more of your habitat plants. Gardeners are often very willing to share seeds and starts and cuttings from their own gardens. So ask a gardener. That's a good way to save some money. Starting some plants from seeds takes longer. but generally costs less. And seeds can be ethically gathered from parking lots, sidewalks, etc. For mulch, straw is inexpensive. And also you can sometimes get the tree trimmers to tip their wood chips in your yard if you are lucky. Or if you're having tree work done, ask them to leave the chips. This is a picture of some oak trees that are growing from acorns that I gathered. This is the base of an old walnut tree that was on county property that had to be cut down. And so I'm hoping to have an oak tree replace it. And this is my very slow and free way to do that.
The Butte County, or the library in Chico has a seed exchange program also. They kind of have the seeds in there just like a library.
That's true, they have a seed library, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know which native plants, but I'm sure they have a lot of different things in there. I know they have a lot of vegetable plants, but I think they also have seeds from other native plants too.
That's a good resource. And we, of course, encourage the planting of California native plants because they have evolved for our climate, for our wildlife. They are host to many, many moths, butterflies, and caterpillars, which are very important for birds, especially the caterpillars. They're a huge food source for birds. We want to plant them in autumn to take advantage of the fall rains. Now is a great time to start planting because it rained yesterday, but this is the season. Here we're going to group the plants together with the similar water needs together. Choose a variety of heights, the vegetation layers that we talked about, and bloom times, which will prolong the nectar availability. And mix the deciduous and evergreens to create interest and texture for birds and people, and apply a mulch, either wood chips or straw, etc. This is the meadow garden at Gateway Science Museum. And we're going to look at a few, I'm going to show you a few plants, native plants that we like for our area. This is the Cleveland sage, which is a water 1 time per month type of plant. It likes full sun, attracts butterflies and hummingbirds, has very pleasantly scented foliage, beautiful dried seed heads when these flowers are done. These pokey things look very stunning in a vase. It's kind of a wrangly shrub, but it can be cut back as needed. And there was another point about this, Mary, that you brought up, which was, the foliage is very beautiful. It's kind of a grayish green. That's quite stunning.
Kind of a silvery green color.
Yeah, silvery green. So next is the Western Redbud, which is a small tree or shrub, deciduous, and has these amazing magenta flowers in the spring. Medium water needs, so we're not going to plant this with our Salvia clevelandii from the last slide. Needs a little bit more. Hosts many moths. Likes a wide variety, sun, part shade, or full sun. Sun, part shade, or full sun. I'm not sure. There's 2 suns in there. The leaves, when they come in, are these beautiful heart-shaped glossy leaves. It's really a beautiful shrub.
Yeah, I think Ken had a really nice one growing in his native front yard, and Joe had one in her front yard too before she moved to New Mexico.
They're in the park a lot. They're very nice. This is the California Fuchsia, the ubiquitous native plant that is just a stunning, gorgeous blossoms that attract hummingbirds. This is a low water. This is a 1 time a month water. This one also is recommended to cut it back at once it's done flowering, and then it'll spring forth with new growth in the spring. Otherwise, it gets a little leggy. This also will self-seed once it gets established, so it will pop up in other places, allowing you to share plants with other people.
Mine is blooming right now. It looks gorgeous. The hummingbird loves it. But I've never really looked it up on Cal Flora, but mine seems to bloom twice a year. Like it's blooming right now, and I think it blooms again in like maybe February or March or something. So they're a great plant to have for the hummingbirds especially, but the bumblebees like them too.
Gorgeous too, they're gorgeous. So next is the blue elderberry, and this is one of the most important sources of food for birds in California. So if you have room for an elderberry shrub, because they can get quite large, like a 15-foot tree in a few years, but plant one if you can. The birds love these, love the berries. They will take a wide variety of watering. If you don't water them, they will go summer dormant. They'll drop their leaves. But they'll get really interesting looking over time. If you keep them well watered, then they'll be super lush and gorgeous, gorgeous lush shrub throughout the summer. So it's pretty versatile that way. If you have one out back that you don't care about looking at, if it gets too messy, don't water that one and see how neat it gets over years. But definitely, if you can, plant one.
We have a couple comments. Patricia Peterbaugh says, generally fuchsias bloom really late in summer or fall. Mine are in full bloom right now. And says redbud does not need any water after it's established. And Joe's California fuchsia also bloomed 2 times a season, but they did need to be cut back in the winter.
Okay, very good. So the redbud, the cowscape does say that it is a medium water needs plant, but if yours is doing well without additional water, then that's great news for all of us. So next is other plants that we like that maybe are not, that they are not native plants, but are very useful for wildlife. They're multi-purpose plants, low to medium water use plants, bird food, and human food. Elderberry juice makes delicious jelly, Marvy. Yes, it does. The thing about elderberry harvesting is you cannot harvest from wild plants because the blue elderberry is protected. It is the host plant for the valley longhorn beetle, which is an endangered species. But in your yard, you can harvest. And you want to make sure when you harvest, you're harvesting ripe berries, because non-ripe berries have a cyanide in them. So don't eat those. But very good. Oops. Oh, this is fine. Next. Okay. So this is a pineapple guava, which is a member of the myrtle family. It's a low water need shrub that is evergreen. It's quite attractive. It has this kind of nice reddish brownish bark. And it gets these flower petals that are edible. They're kind of fleshy flower petals. They're pink and white over there on the left. And 1 year I had for days and days, I had these Western tanagers coming and feeding on the petals one spring. And then a little bit later, right now, actually, is when they're starting to ripen. They have these delicious, acquired taste, delicious fruits that you can make into jelly or just eat them fresh. Pineapple guava. Blue aloe. This, I planted one of these in a pot. I got it from, big box store reject plant, $1 bin, and it's doing amazing. It's got this beautiful, not quite as luscious as this one in the picture, but it has a beautiful flower spike, and the hummingbird comes and hits it, feeds at the blossoms, and then it goes right to my hummingbird feeder. I think this would be great on a balcony where you have a hummingbird feeder as well. And it gives some beautiful interest and attracts the hummingbird and gives you a chance to see them up close. These are very low water requirements as well.
And they're pretty prolific too. So you can probably, once you get one, you can probably give some to friends after that. Or you can
We like to share. Pomegranate, this is another low water requirement. Beautiful flowers that attract hummingbirds. It's a deciduous shrub. It can get pretty big, but you can, if you prune it, it'll get even bigger. It takes that as encouragement. Fruit for humans, or the birds will visit the fruit after they split. When it starts to rain, the fruits will split. The split fruits will also attract insects, which will attract birds. And it's a pretty low maintenance shrub. It will make this thicket of branches, which in the winter is an attractive like hiding place for sparrows and toadies, a roosting place. And then of course we need, sunflowers. These require more water, medium water use. But you can find these to grow in very tall or very short, giant seed heads, multiple seed heads, I guess flower heads first. So it's there are a lot of different varieties to choose from, and different color flowers. And then it makes this big tangle of, well, mine did anyway, because I had tall ones, this big tangle of seed heads that the finches, black-headed grosbeak, titmice, the titmice are still coming and finding the ones that are right in the center, leftover seeds, right in the center of the seed heads. Pure delight, these sunflowers. I can't recommend it enough. And this is a picture of a female black-headed grosbeak. The flowers also attract bees, which, that's good too.
I've seen some sunflowers growing like right by the side of a road with like no water all summer, and they still somehow manage to grow. They're amazing.
Amazing. So next I'm going to talk a little bit about what our habitat program has, and then we'll get into some resources. So the Certified Neighborhood Habitat Program, we have a packet of detailed information which can help you with the beginning of your journey to create habitat for birds and pollinators. So we have an information packet that has a self-assessment, which lets you see, how much lawn did I remove, and how many native plants did I plant, and do I have all the vegetation layers, and so on. We have informative brochures, list of demonstration gardens, list of local landscapers, guidelines for the certification, and upon certification, you can request this very attractive sign to display in your yard, which acts as a little advertisement. I have one in front of my house, and I hear people walking by and they talk about neighborhood habitat. It must be because of the sign. So you can email, there's the email address, neighborhoodhabitat.aas@gmail.com. Or you can go to our website and find us on there. And so now we're going to talk a little bit more about some online resources for plant selection for this area. So this is the Audubon Native Plants Database. This is the screen that you get when you go to the website, which is audubon.org/native-plants. You enter your zip code. You can also enter your email address, but that's optional. And then you put in your zip code, and then you click the search button, and it'll generate a list of plants for this area, native plants. And here's a screen. It looks like this. It gives 23 plants for the best results. And then you can go to this tab, full results, which has 337 plants. You can sort your types of plants. Probably this is just a screenshot, so I can't click these, but shrubs and perennials and etc. What kind of bird it attracts. So it gives us nice information about the plant, and then it gives us nice information about what birds might be attracted by that plant. And next is Calscape Plant Database. So here I've looked up the Western Redbud in the calscape.org plant database. And this has a very detailed description about the plant. This also shows 70 nurseries that carry the plant. These are hot links. You can click on those, add it to your plant list. I suppose you can make an account and save them all. But it talks about, oh, look, it's easy to grow in a place that doesn't get below 15 degrees. Here's the plant description. It's a shrub. It gets 10 to 20 feet tall. And here's the form, all kinds of information. And then the wildlife supported down below. And even specifically the types of butterflies and moths. So you can go in there and put in any plant. It also shows you on the right, the map of where this plant has been located. And this is free. It's a free website. This is Calscape Garden Planner, which is gardenplanner.calscape.org. And this is really cool. Here you put in a few more things than on the Audubon native plant database. You answer these 4 questions. You put in your city. Then you select garden goals. So that's where we are over here on this screen. I clicked on California Natural, but you can choose simple and elegant, outdoor living, homeowner association friendly. And then you'll choose, your priorities. Do you want pollinator garden? Do you want bird watching, water conservation, deer resistant? All of these things you get to choose. And then it narrows it down for those pieces that you put in, those informations that you put in. It gives you this beautiful list of plants with plant information and how large the plants get and how much water they need and the type of sun. And then on the right, it shows the butterflies, the birds, and the other creatures. Very nice resource. But wait, there's more.
One thing
it also gives you this beautiful, these beautiful, mock-up plans that you could use just off the shelf, or certainly it gives you an idea of what it would look like rendered in 3D. And then also down below on the right, it gives you this beautiful landscape architect, not quite drawing. So you see how many shrubs to plant and perennial grasses and like.
One of the things I noticed on the last slide was they don't really tell you what the blooming period is in a lot of those different plants, but you can go to the calflora.org, and if you click on that, or if you do a search for that name, you can either do the common name or the scientific name. It'll give you the blooming period for those plants.
Well, this Calscape gives you, if you see in the purple arrow, flowering season is winter and spring. It has a data point for that.
Oh yeah, that's good. But the Calflora will give you like by month.
Oh, well, that's great. Calflora, I didn't even put on here. It's just calflora.org, right? Calflora.org, Flora.
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit more technical site, so it doesn't have a lot of stuff but everything up, it'll tell you if the plant is native, and give you the range map, but it also give you this little calendar of what months it blooms.
Oh, very good. So next we're gonna leave the web and go to the physical realm. Demonstration, native and habitat gardens, places in person that you could go and take a look at plants and gardens and get some inspiration, see them in a garden setting, look at different ways the plants are behaving at different times of the year. There's also going to be a water-wise and habitat-friendly garden tour in May of next year, which will have about maybe a dozen gardens of different shapes and sizes, small gardens, professionally designed gardens, homeowner designed, a wide range of gardens to look at for inspiration. But right now, since right now is a good time to plant, you can go to any of these 3 gardens, Gateway Science Museum, and Gardens at Patrick Ranch has a native habitat garden, and the Chico Creek Nature Center, which has a pond and lots of beautiful oak titmice I've seen out there. So there's our little oak titmouse on the right.
And the garden tour is put on by Altacal and California Native Plant Society, right?
The Native Plant Society and the Neighborhood Habitat Program. Yes, we're joining to put on this water-wise and habitat-friendly garden tour in May. And I am working with Deborah Halfpenny from the Native Plant Society. And next are a list of local nurseries with California native plants. Harvest and Habitats Nursery is a new one. That is on Park Avenue, about 1710 Park Avenue. It's in like the backyard of 1078 Gallery. And it's Sherry Scott, and she has native plants, and then also, like veg plants and just a wide range of things. But she is a certified bloom nursery, which is a program through the Native Plant Society. So she's really doing some good things. And then there's the floral, and that's in town. And then there's the Floral Native Nursery, which is out on Meridian Road now. It doesn't take that long to get out there, and you can see meadowlarks when you go out there. So that's not a bad trip. But they have a website that has a list of their plants on it, which I find pretty useful. And they're pretty good about answering the phone, if you call them up and ask them for a specific plant. And then there's Magnolia Gift and Garden on East Avenue. I don't know if their new store down on Broadway, if that has, I haven't been down there, so I don't know what they have as far as plants, but their store on East Avenue has a small selection of native plants. But if you don't want to drive out to Floral Native, that's not a bad option to check out. And we also have the Mount Lassen chapter of the California Native Plant Society, which they have a great website, mountlassen.cnps.org. They have volunteer days at the Alice Hecker Native Plant Garden at the Chico Creek Nature Center, which was one of our demonstration spots to go check out. This would be a great way to, help in the garden and learn about plants, see the plants, and also learn about their needs from Deborah Halfpenny, who runs that. And she's an expert plantswoman. So here are the main takeaways with our white-crowned sparrows. The vegetation layers, we want to focus on that. Mostly California native plants, but not necessarily all. Not too tidy. Remember, don't get too tidy. Use the online resources that we've pointed out, and enjoy the birds. And thank you so much. These are our contacts here for me, Carla Resnick, neighborhoodhabitat.aas@gmail.com, and Mary Muchowski, director at altacal.org.
Great. That was a great presentation, Carla. Thank you. Does anybody
Thank you, Mary.
have any questions? You can go ahead and unmute yourself, or you can type it in the chat.
I am going to stop my screen share. One of those birds is a golden crowned sparrow in the last slide. I believe you. Yes, the one on the left, closest to us was. They do gather together, they flock together.
Carla, I have a comment.
Okay.
Because I've had a native plant garden at our house here, maybe 9 years. And I want people to know that they don't live forever, that you can expect to trade them out once in a while. I have had to do that with a number of the rose mallows, which is one of my very favorite, but they have a fairly short lifespan, maybe 3 to 5 years. So you kind of have to be watching for these things and be ready to plant again or make some changes, because nothing is forever.
That's a good point, Marvi. That's a good point. Thank you for bringing that up. And I have found that sometimes certain plants, they're just not going to work in the yard. They're just not. So you might have to change those out too. It's kind of a journey instead of putting it all in and being done. It's not quite like that.
Definitely different soil types, shade and not shade. Like I have 4 different species of milkweed in my yard, and they are just doing horrible, but it's because I planted them by a fence where they don't get much sun. So I think they need a lot more sun. And then I've killed some native plants by overwatering them, and then I've killed some by not watering them enough. So it's definitely a balance that you got to learn, but ones that do really good in your yard, you should definitely take note and maybe plant some more of those. My salvias are doing pretty good.
Yeah, good.
Any other questions from anybody? Can I just make one more comment about trees? Please do not plant crepe myrtles. Don't go to crepe myrtles. Be really aware of the trees that you plant, because those are long-time investments, and make sure they are bird friendlies. And we have an old ginkgo that came with the house, which is beautiful. I think maybe I've seen 2 birds in it in 8 years. So be really, really aware of the trees that you're planting.
There are definitely studies that say that ginkgos are one of the lowest bird-friendly trees.
Mm.
Even though they're so beautiful, but they don't attract very many insects, or they don't have very many caterpillars on them.
Mm.
So the birds just don't go to them. So native trees, if you can plant a native tree, that's going to be your best bet.
Yeah, especially oak trees. Those are the species to plant, the oak trees around here. They host so many different caterpillar. They're like one of the keystone for wildlife. It was, I think, Jennifer Jewell had an entomologist rather on her program of last spring maybe, and he was talking about how important oak trees are in hosting different caterpillars and how those are really key. And since this is oak grassland area, if you have space for an oak tree, for sure, put in an oak tree for the birds.
If you're worried about them dropping limbs or anything, just make sure that you plant them at the far back side of your yard, or someplace that they're not going to land on your house or your car or anything like that.
There are some hands up. Chris Mueller.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that among other information, the Calscape website does have information on what kinds of caterpillars, butterflies, birds the plants attract. So that can be helpful when you're thinking about what Marvy had said about planting plants and trees that are good for what we want to attract.
Indeed, excellent.
And Joe and Dawn have their hand up.
Hi there. I think what I'm mostly discovering down here in Southern California, which I'm going to relate to all over anybody who has a landscaper coming in, not a landscaper, a yard maintenance person, is to really be aware of how they're trimming trees and shrubs, because I had somebody come and cut down a couple of hummingbird nests and really not know it. So Audubon actually supports, oh my gosh, I think it's the tree care. Mary, do you remember? It's a tree care and wildlife. I don't know, we'll have to put the link up. But it talks about how to, even with native plants, if you're going to do any trimming at all, or any sort of gardening in your yard, to make sure to do it at the appropriate time and in the appropriate way because of our wildlife.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah, and hummingbirds can nest really early, way before people are even thinking about that.
That's right. My hummingbirds, they built that nest in January. It was so very important point, Dawn. Thank you.
And I just put a note on my back gate saying that my backyard did not need to be landscaped today at all, because I come on Mondays. But I've tried in the past to like leave notes for them, like how leaving leaves on the lawn is good, not only for the birds, but for the lawn. It's good kind of have a mulch. I mean, as long as it doesn't get too thick. But apparently they didn't read any of that. So now I'm going to just have to, every Monday, I'm going to have to put a note on the gate that says, don't come in and do the yard. Because I'm a renter and I don't get a choice in that.
Talk to your landlord.
Yeah, I know I have, but I think he still kind of likes, the lawn to be taken care of and all that.
Thank you, ladies, so much. That was a really great presentation and we appreciate it, even from New Mexico.
Thank you for coming.
Wow. In the chat, Allie put in that she put a pond in her house less than 2 years ago and now has a yard list of 103 species.
Wow.
Now, I think she lives in a little bit more down in Southern California somewhere. Can't seem to remember, but I know she does a lot for the Christmas bird counts because I always have to send her my dates every year.
Amazing. I have somebody asked me if I had a water feature, and I have a plant saucer that I put on a table and I put a rock in it. And I have sparrows having baths in there, lesser goldfinches having baths in there. Last year, I had the hermit thrush, almost every evening coming by. And it's just a plant saucer. I mean, there's nothing fancy about it. And they find it and it does the trick. So a little bit of water really goes a long way. Just got to make sure you clean it out. Or you can do an amazing huge pond. I mean, it's up to you. But even just a plant saucer will work.
Yeah, she just said she had a Tennessee and Virginia's warbler a few weeks ago.
Oh my goodness.
Those are pretty darn good birds.
Fabulous. Well, thank you everybody for coming.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And email us if you have any questions or comments, concerns. We're always around to take those questions. Or
Will this be posted at the website?
Yes, I'll post. We were recording it, so I'll post it on the website.
Great. A lot of information you had, so thank you.
Thank you guys all for attending.
Good night, Mary.
Good presentation. Thanks. Good night.
good night.
Bye, Skip.
Our incredible shrinking world.
That was pretty good. Lots of input from other people and stuff. That was good.
Yeah, very, very nice to have experienced voices sharing their information
Yeah, I don't even know how Allie heard about this one.
in the newsletter, maybe.
Yeah, because I think she's down in Kern County, if
Oh my
I
goodness.
remember correctly.
Well, thank you so much, Mary. You did a great job running the Zoom and all that. I appreciate it. I appreciate your comments and helping out and encouraging this presentation to become.
Yeah, I hope we get some more people hitting you up for the certified
I
neighborhood.
think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, thanks for putting it mostly together. I'm sorry I wasn't able to help as much as I thought I was going to be able to.
It turned out just fine.
Yeah, it was. It was really good.
Well, I'll see you on the other side.
Okay, I'm going to end the meeting. Talk to you guys. Bye.